The shadows of Point Pleasant. In the quiet town of Point Pleasant, nestled against the banks of the Ohio River, autumn arrived with a shroud of mist that lingered longer than usual. The locals, accustomed to nightly chirps of crickets and the rustle of leaves, began to feel an unsettling chill in the air, as if whispered secrets brushed past their ears and their hearts with icy fingers. Sarah, a 24-year-old college student, returned home from a late study session, the glow of her phone illuminating her path. As she ambled down the darkened street toward her rented house, she recalled the tales her grandfather had shared, tales of an ominous figure wrapped in shadow with wings like the veil of night. The legendary Mothman, he had called it, harbinger of disaster, terrorizing the town 50 years prior. Old stories, Sarah muttered to herself, trying to dismiss the flutter of unease in her stomach. Yet, the phantoms of the past felt palpable as she stepped onto her porch. The air thickened, and the world around her seemed to hold its breath. A faint sense of dread clawed at her mind, urging her to hurry inside. A few days went by, each night flowing into the next like the chilly river that ran behind her house. Whispers spread through town about odd occurrences, strange animal mutilations, eerily glowing eyes glowing in the darkness, and the hovering silhouette of a creature that appeared only under the cover of darkness. Sarah's curiosity got the better of her. Driven by her journalistic instincts, she began to research the Mothman, poring over dusty archives and hushed conversations with the older townsfolk. One evening, armed with little more than a flashlight and her notebook, she set out towards Gull's Creek, an area rumored to be a frequent haunt of the elusive creature. The darkness wrapped around her, thicker than before. Shadows danced behind her as she edged into the overgrown path leading toward the creek, her heart racing with both excitement and fear. Just a story, she reassured herself, but each rustle in the bushes made her jump. The trees loomed overhead, their branches whispering secrets in the wind, casting intricate shadows that seemed to ripple with every gust. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught her eye near the water's edge. Sarah shouted out, "Is anyone there?" But the echo swallowed her voice, leaving just silence. Then, she saw it. A shape gliding silkenly above the water, enormous wings spread wide, almost ethereal against the haze. Sarah's breath hitched, a million thoughts racing through her mind. Was it the Mothman? Gathering courage, she stepped closer, her flashlight flickering in the thickening fog. With each step, the figure grew clearer. No longer a legend, it stood tall, a grotesque silhouette with glowing red eyes that bore into her soul. The creature's wings unfurled, a tapestry of darkness that stretched across the night sky, and a chilling screech echoed through the woods, sending shivers down Sarah's spine. An inexplicable feeling washed over her, a mix of reverence and raw terror. "Go back," a voice called from behind her, breaking the spell. She turned to see an old man, his face weathered and grave. It was Mr. Jenkins, a local historian who had warned her about the creature's omen. "You don't want to be here when it chooses its target." Quote, "What does that mean?" she stammered, heart-pounding. But, before he could answer, another shriek shattered the night, louder and more menacing this time. The sound resonated through her bones, reverberating a message of inevitability. The ground trembled as the figure inched closer, and she could see now, gnarled flesh poked through tattered wings. Panic surged within her. Sarah turned to run, but her feet felt anchored to the earth in sheer horror. All her life, she had chased stories, looked for thrills, but reality had pitched an ugly truth before her. As she sprinted clumsily through the fog, an explosion erupted behind, sending her sprawling to the ground. The river had swelled violently. The townsfolk had gathered on the banks, their expressions frozen in horror as they watched the spectral form of a creature barreling toward them. Sarah's heart raced, the thrill of discovery now replaced with sheer survival. With lungs burning for air, she scrambled to her feet and ran toward the shouts of the townspeople. The mist clung tightly to her, shadows grasping at her heels as she dashed toward what she hoped was safety. By the time she reached the gathering crowd, panic was palpable. The creature's screeches echoed heightening fear and chaos. Mr. Jenkins grabbed her, pulling her close. "You must warn them. The signs, they were all there. Disaster approaches." Quote, just as dawn started to break, throwing pale light over the river, the skies split with thunder, and a massive storm descended, engulfing Point Pleasant. The creature disappeared into the clouds, leaving behind a lingering sense of dread. Days turned into weeks, the Mothman's presence barely fading from the townsfolk's minds. Then, the bridge over the Ohio River collapsed in the midst of that storm, claiming lives and leaving an indelible mark in their history. Sarah became the storyteller, the keeper of whispers, recounting the legend anew, the terrifying prophecy of the Mothman, carving it into the fabric of her own life, ensuring that the shadows of Point Pleasant would never truly be banished, but continued to hover, ever watchful over the unsuspecting townsfolk.